Right, blue sky, so I'm putting some thick slow medium onto the canvas. This avoids the use of too much water, so I'm going to put a nice sky, summery sky, although it's autumn. You've got a nice blue sky up here, a little bit of cobalt mixed with a bit of white. Again, more this thick slow medium. Really don't want the paper to become too wet. Just dampen the brush a little bit. These are the new kind of acrylic paint, and I'm using it today like I would an oil paint. The beauty of this is you can keep the paint really wet. You're in control of the paint, not the other way around. Okay, so we're just getting this sky in. Yeah. Okay. A bit more titanium white. A little bit of blue sky up here. This cobalt blue. Try and keep my colours down to about 4. So we've got, today I'm using cobalt because we've got this nice blue sky. It's cobalt blue, a little bit of yellow ochre and titanium white, and that really sorts me out my sky. Just going to bring that yellow ochre down to the bottom here, so we've got a nice big sky area. And let's just mark the sky just down here. So we're roughly two thirds of the way down the paper. Mix that painting. Just picking up some colour here. You need to keep the paint wet. You just spray over with just ordinary water, and that stops the paint forming a skin, and we can carry on working it. There we go. When the paint is at a really nice consistency, what I call buttery effect, then the paint blends in. Okay, I think that's my sky already completed. I'm going to put some with white clouds in over there. Get some more white. Using it straight out of the pot here. And that's just over here. Working into the paper here. Okay, that's the basis for my sky. Now I'm going to mark out the trees. I'm going to do that with a mixture of cobalt and yellow ochre. So I'm going to mark over this tree that's over here. Let's put a bit more yellow ochre on. And I tend to mix the colours on the paper rather than in the palette. It's just very roughly. Adjust that a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to use a bit of the yellow, still a few greens around, That's late middle of October, so we've still got a few greens here. This is just very light yellow and some of the cobalt. And I'm using a thick slow medium just to blend the colours in. Right, so it's going to give me my bank here. Let's mix a bit of white. Right. I'll continue that colour down, but thicken it up because this is the foreground and we have the reeds showing up. I'm just at the moment just putting the base colour down, and then we can add some detail. Just working those colours in. Make them a little bit stronger as we come towards the view here. We have these reeds. Right, so what I'm doing now is really just filling the paper, so I have all my colours on here, and then I can rework them as I need different colours. Okay, so we're coming down here to the bottom of the picture with the reeds, so just need a nice fairly strong background here. Mix in some yellow and some yellow ochres. Paint is still quite wet, just touch, you see it, still wet. If this was ordinary acrylic, it would have dried out by now. It's quite warm sun. This is my... Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to capture some of these autumn colours. So I'm just going to replenish my palette with some yellow ochre and some light red ochre. Certainly a bit impressionistic, isn't it? I'm now just going to put the castle keep in. We're just going to hint at it at the moment. We're just finding those shapes. Okay, so it's just that recognisable shape up there. And we can just add a little bit of shadow in the gate there. The thing to do is not to fiddle too much with it at this point. We're just trying to get some of the shapes and the colours. Okay, so there's some houses just behind there. Just going to hint at those. Some shapes. And you have just a little bit of a house here. Just the end view of the house. And again, keep the colours fairly very subtle because they are. It's quite a way in the distance here, isn't it? Okay. Right, I'm going to get back to using my big brush, and we're going to put in some of these colours here. Paint is still quite wet. Using this thick slow medium slows the drying process down, and Means you don't have to use quite so much water. Go back to some yellow on this bank here. You're just touching this grass and the reeds. Again, very impressionistic style. Really don't want too much detailing at this stage. We're just hinting at these reeds and the grass bank. So just go all the way along there. And just bring that down. Then we have some darker colour. We have some bushes just in front of us here. Darken the colour up. Blend those in there. Okay. Let's put the colour along. So that gives us our guideline for our riverbank. Really at this point we're just picking up the colours from the palette. Mixture of light red ochre, cobalt blue, possibly a bit of yellow ochre in here, and of course the light yellow here. And just blending them in. Go down to our white here now. We're going to pick up, turning around here, looking around to where our gate is and where this little bit of water over here would come in. So I'm going to move it down to here. Mixture of cobalt, a little bit of white, and that's mixing in with the paint on the canvas here. Okay. You can just see some reflections in that water there, which I'll try and pick up. And some of the, I won't put in too much detail at this stage, but just you can see that we've got some water here. A few downward strokes, so see if we've got some reflections here. Okay. Going back to our cobalt blue and some of the yellow that's left in the pot here. And let's start to put in some of these reeds, which I think are about here. Use a little bit of white, I think. Pick up some white, put that in there. Try that. So different strokes, just to get some contrast. Just an impressionistic view of these reeds down here. Pick up some dark colour here. At the moment we're just illustrating, trying to show where these reeds and different part of the painting is. We've got this foreground here and these reeds. We can put these in a bit more detailed. That's another point. At the moment, just let's get these colours in. Okay. Just work along. Perhaps we could leave some of the white of the paper to actually show like a water reflection behind the reeds here. They're going in all directions, so we can use different brush strokes so we get different marks on the paper. Okay. Just getting those different textures on there. Give the painting a bit of a spray. I'm almost out of water there, so let's go back to just wetting the brush. Pick up some more of that yellow. Down here where the reeds kicking. Pick up some of this slow, thick medium here and work that in different directions. Along here a bit more. What we could do at this point, just to show the reeds, let's just start to use our palette knife. The paint is still quite wet, so we can just cut through here a bit. This will give us just a few guidelines of where our reeds are. Just go back to wetting the paint here. Let's dry it out. A bit of darker colour over here. That's with the yellow. Let's have a look and see what we can do over here. Some lights and darks on the riverbank here. Push those colours down. And then edge of this riverbank. Again, working the colours in. This colour now, I'm just going to fade the colours out. Almost getting a slightly mist over there. Okay, now we can start to perhaps put some of the detail in. Okay, I'm just going to put these clouds in. A little bit of a cloud up there. Yellow ochre, bit of cobalt, and just blend it in with a kind of hog hair brush I've got here. Back to a little bit of white. And just work it in, really as you would as an oil painting. Some thick, slow, medium. Okay. Back to the big brush. Work those colours in. Very subtle sky. Perhaps working into those trees there. Some white. And just going to put in some lines. Okay. And just put in the shadow here, the archway. Just a mixture of cobalt and light red ochre. Perhaps put in a bit of shadow over here. And just working these colours in. Just very impressionistic. Perhaps we could add a bit more detail when we're in the studio. Or house in. Really just using up the paint we have on the paper here. There's a little chimney there, just really we're just hinting at things here. Now we've got everything in here. It's a very Turner-esque kind of style with the trees and the colours blending into each other. So I'm going to stop here, and beauty of this paint is we can actually open the paint up again and work in some of the details, certainly around the Strand Gate at Winchelsea here, the castle, and some of these little houses we can mark in, and perhaps a few of the trees with its branches. We can, if I just put in a few guidelines there. So I'm going to stop here and detail and how much detail I put in, I'll decide when I'm back in the studio. So that's the end of our plein air painting session today. This is how we left it out on location. So I'm just going to do some work on the sky area here because we've still got a little bit of rain damage. So just going to work some of this white and yellow ochre into the painting here. Okay, got a little bit of water damage from painting on location from the rain. Just put some little bit of white and yellow ochre, and I'm just going to mix in some cobalt blue into the painting here. It's a very blue sky, isn't it? And I'm just going to work that cobalt down into that area here. Okay. So that will give us that blue sky that we had when we was out on the marshes there. And then all of it's subtle around here, around the castle. A little bit more cobalt, and bring that down. And so we've got that nice cloud shape here. Okay. Right. Let's go back to some white and just work that in over here with a little bit of white cloud. And bring that down into foliage a little bit more, and over here. Okay. Right. Now, I'm going to reinforce some of these colours over here and get a bit more definition on the foliage. And I'm bringing in a new colour, a little bit of carbon black, and that's with a little bit of transparent yellow, and just going to gradually work it into. Okay, so we've got these autumn colours, just a little bit of the greenery, and just working that in, pushing it into the paper, to the canvas board. Okay, some here. A little bit of darker colour in between the trees here, so we get some shadows. Working it in. Go back to our autumn colour, some yellow ochre, just coming in here. And then just moving it into the background and around. A little bit more yellow ochre, certainly over here, to these trees here. A little bit of spray. Open up the paint, work in some of that yellow here, mix that in with that colour. Okay. And then work it down into the paper, so suggesting this foliage as we go across here. Back to a little bit of yellow ochre up here. suggest a little bit of foliage. Get a little bit over here. Bit of the yellow here. A little bit of cobalt, and then just fade that in a little bit. It could work very quickly on this background here, putting in some greens, a bit of yellow with a bit of the carbon black. Reinforce this colour here. Pushing some of those colours down into the ground there. This is the riverbank here, and again just pulling the paint down, downward brush strokes. Back to our yellow ochre. Pushing it through those colours there, so a nice blending. I'm going to just use a soft brush just to soften this up here. Just soften those edges. Just a bit of water on the brush, and we just soften that down. Okay. Get back to our bank here. Just started to dry up a little bit, so let's take a colour down here and push down. A little bit darker colour just to reinforce that bank there. And a little bit of carbon black over here, mixed in with the yellow, just to suggest some foliage here. Just bringing it to the forefront a little bit. Now, danger now to really overwork the painting. So what I'm going to do, stop there. I'm going to do that little bit of the water here, just where it's showing through the reeds. So a little bit of cobalt blue, and back to some white. Push that down into the water there. It's gone a bit dark, so let's go back to some blue, mix that in. get some carbon black and some yellow so we can get some shadows going in there. Okay. Back. Just put some more in there. So we're just showing some shadows from the riverbank there. Okay. Change brushes. The small. Okay, so just showing a few ripples on the water there. Okay, I'm going to go back because we lost the castle keep up here, so let's just use a little bit of white and just tap that in. And use a little bit of yellow ochre just to blend it in. Okay, and then we're going to get the foliage in here. Around that castle there. Soften it down, a little bit of yellow ochre. And there we go. Use some of this dark paint here just to, I think just to put in a few of the trees over there. Might be a little bit too thick, so I should go back to that. A little bit of the yellow, just to calm that down just a little bit. Putting some branches over here. Now, if we have made those a bit too thick, we can just kind of block them out a little bit. There you go, some colour. A little bit of yellow just to calm it all down. A bit more yellow ochre. A bit more of the yellow here. A little bit of black just to show there's an archway up here, the castle there. Okay. And let's come down to bottom here and just start to add in a few of these reeds. Just some really loose shapes there. Cube, and then just going to tap in some of this yellow here and along here. Put in some broad strokes around here. Just give the impression of these leaves here. Just very loosely. Go back. It's down here with some a little bit of yellow, some broad strokes. Spread the paint fingernails. If you haven't got fingernails, you can use a palette knife. Just kind of blend those in a little bit. Okay. Add some dark colour. Just put a few, perhaps broken lines in here. Suggest these very loose reeds. Lock in some of the paint here. Just blur some of these paint shapes here. It's really just giving an impression of these reeds at the bottom there. So here we have very loose painting, very impressionistic, a little bit Turnery style with the trees. Very atmospheric, I think. But it's basically a very loose painting. That kind of hazy Turnerish style. Probably be drying with about an hour, but if I wanted to I could reopen up the paint with the water spray and I could rework it. But I'm quite happy with that, with what the time I've spent on it, and it is a very loose Turnerish painting of the military canal in the autumn.